Self-compassion is absolutely essential if you're going to want to learn and change and grow. One of the things that stops people from wanting to grow or be in therapy or look at themselves is that they have a very, very punitive voice that they've internalized that is very punishing and very critical and very judgmental and makes any kind of self-reflection or growth very, very painful. Because it feels to them like if they're going to look at themselves honestly, that a part of themselves is deeply threatened and it can stimulate a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and a lot of depression and anxiety, and it's just a painful experience. So if we have that kind of punitive voice on the inside, we really want to begin working with it with a lot of compassion. And we want to start rewiring that part of ourselves so that we can greet ourselves with far more love and acceptance than some of us really experienced earlier on in life. Some of the ways that we do that is recognizing, I like to use a phrase that Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who started the nonviolent communication model, he was the founder of that body of work. He used to say that we need to remember that we've never done anything in our lives that was not our best strategy to meet a deep need that we had at the time. And the thing that I really like about that definition and about that concept is that it removes this idea of there being good people and bad people. That really instead, we're all kind of wounded and imperfect people. And we are doing the best that we can to emerge out of our childhoods and into a world that at the moment does not work well for all people. And instead of turning on ourselves in a punitive way, or turning on one another and creating enemy images of one another, I would invite people to instead begin healing and growing and looking compassionately about what structures, both externally and internally, don't work for human beings, and then joining together and changing them. But if we're going to change them, we first need to have a sense of being able to name them and see them without it being painful. And so when we understand that what we've ever done, the only thing we've ever done in life is our best attempt to meet a deep need, then we can have a lot more compassion for it. If what we're thinking is that this is evidence of me being a bad person or a good person, it's going to be much more difficult for me to work with it. So we want to get a far more neutral and detached view on some of the things that we have come by honestly. Some of the things that we do and think are not who we are. And we get very, very attached to them as if this is who I am. And then I either need to defend it and make it good, or I need to hide it because it's bad and shameful. And so we really want to begin working with those internalized structures differently. That takes a lot of intention first. I want to have the intention for self-compassion. And then it takes the practice of a lot of neutral observation. To what degree am I able to really observe what's happening in me neutrally, with a curious eye to understanding it and understanding the good reasons why it's there? Because in my experience, there are always very, very good reasons why something is there. And I have not yet come across a person that I would say, oh, it's because they're a bad, evil person, and that was just intrinsically there. That does not seem to be true to me. These things we've absorbed them almost by osmosis in the cultures that we're grown up in. So we begin detaching our identity from that. We begin observing it neutrally so that we can get to know everything that is arising in us. We develop a completely different relationship with our feelings, where every feeling is welcome and okay, because it's just neutral data. I don't need to numb out from it, and I also don't need to act it out. I get really, really grounded in my deep needs and the drives that I have. And these are things that Marshall Rosenberg would say were universal to all people. You know, we're looking at things like our need for meaning, our need for autonomy, our need for connectedness with each other, our need for belonging and safety and security, our need for choicefulness while staying in relationship. And so I begin looking at what I'm valuing, and then I really make a commitment to the frame of what is going to make things better. How are things going to work better for me and you and us? And so self-compassion practice is absolutely integral to doing that kind of work. Because if I'm busy being punitive with myself and thinking of myself as evil, I'm not going to want to get on that journey. It's going to be too painful. And so that journey is going to represent for me access to more pain than I really want to make myself available to. And then what happens is I end up becoming very defended and rigid. And then, that's when you hear people who say, well, that's just who I am. That's just who I am. And you just take it or leave it. And you can even hear in the energy of that, there's a lot of brittleness. There's a lot of defensiveness. There's a lot of staking out of territory. And that relational positioning is counter to growth. So if you're wanting to grow, got to cultivate self-compassion.